There is still a lot more to unpack in the recent episode of Ahsoka, Episode 7, Dreams and Madness. Specifically though, something happened in the episode that is very uncommon for Star Wars. In all of the lore, it is extremely rare for Grand Admiral Thrawn to be tricked or outsmarted. And yet, in this recent episode, it wasn't Ahsoka Tano, Ezra, Sabine, or anybody else that outsmarted Thrawn. Rather, it was Baylan Skoll himself who did something that Thrawn did not anticipate or expect. So what exactly does this mean for the overarching story? Why is Grand Admiral Thrawn going to take Baylan Skoll and his plan a lot more seriously now? What exactly is Baylan after? And we believe that we have some major hints not only from this episode, but the last one. And why was it that Baylan, of all people, was able to outsmart Grand Admiral Thrawn, leaving behind his own apprentice in Shin? And why was this massively important to the story moving forward? Welcome back to the channel again, my friends, as we open up yet another holocron and discuss Baylan, Thrawn, and what exactly is going on here. Before we begin though, we have had our own Night Sister mothers look into the thread of fate, and they have discovered something terrible. Many of the individuals that visit our channel have not yet subscribed, so if you've been enjoying the daily Star Wars uploads and would like to keep up to date with everything Ahsoka and afterwards, reach out with the Force and crush the subscribe button. It is your destiny, they have foreseen it. Baylan has been the most interesting character by far in the Ahsoka series. Early on, we've known that he seeks something more, and that he does not wish to join Thrawn's empire, stating that the power that he seeks that calls to him from across the stars is so much greater than an empire or a Jedi Order, that the passing on of the Jedi Order to the Empire is an everlasting cycle of power, one that Baylan wants to break by, quote, going to the beginning. As we talked about at the beginning of this video, Baylan achieves an amazing feat of fooling Thrawn. Thrawn believed that he knew exactly what Baylan and Shin wanted. In fact, Thrawn was correct about surmising exactly what Shin wanted, and that being power. But not the power of Peridea, who he and even the Night Sisters have called a barren wasteland of death, but rather the power that he offers them in his brand new empire. This power that he offered to them was enough to seduce Shin, as Baylan sensed that the power that she always wanted was within Thrawn's empire. But Baylan wanted something greater, and therefore felt it necessary to dismiss her from his presence. It's clear that Baylan saw Shin's ambition as a flaw, as it blinded her from the greater power that the world and galaxy offers. Baylan cuts Shin off because she cannot hear what calls to him, something that he mentioned in the previous episode, telling her to listen, that there was something far greater going on Peridea, and something that Shin was unable to tap into. In fact, the only individuals and Force sensitives that we know would know anything about what Baylan is speaking of is the Night Sisters here. Ahsoka and Ezra have been on this world now, and they don't appear to hear anything calling to them like Baylan does. What's more is Thrawn is completely unaware what is moving Baylan. However, the title of the episode is extremely interesting, calling it Dreams and Madness. Perhaps there is something reaching across the stars to Baylan that will eventually drive him mad with their presence. But more on that in just a moment. Something else beyond Baylan managing to fool Grand Admiral Thrawn was where Thrawn's own mind was. He had no need or desire to destroy his enemies outright. And although that would have been mostly beneficial to him, the thing that Thrawn values most is time. But more precise than that, Thrawn values what is ever within the catacombs of the ancient Night Sister Temple. We had the fairly big reveal that it was not Thrawn's soldiers that are an undead army, as was previously explored and theorized, as Ezra managed to kill many of the stormtroopers and they did not reanimate, nor turned into a puff of green smoke like Marok did, indicating that Night Sister magic and rituals were at play. The stormtroopers appear to be the same group that went with the Chimera to Peridea when Ezra used the Purgle to jump it into hyperspace, and are the crew, although it's being held together by literal strings. These stormtroopers are not Thrawn's main goal. However, this doesn't mean that there isn't something terrible at play with the Night Sisters. In the previous episode, Thrawn said that he needed to call upon their dark magic once more. And as we've learned with Thrawn through the various novels and his appearances in Rebels, is we must always focus on his end goal. And Thrawn's end goal is to empty the catacombs and then jump back into known space using the Eye of Sion. Although the stormtroopers are not an undead army as we previously theorized, I still do believe that Thrawn has an army waiting for him in the catacombs, catacombs, an army of likely dead Night Sisters as we saw reanimated in the Clone Wars with Mother Talzin. It's clear that whatever is on Peridea is within those catacombs that Thrawn values the most, but with Thrawn's focus on the catacombs and seeing no greater importance to Peridea, this is why he is perplexed by Baylan's decision, why Baylan appears to be the only one of all the characters, Force sensitive or not, to sense something greater about the world. Or is he? I believe we're overlooking another important key detail here, that being the Night Sister mothers themselves who are aiding Thrawn. It is clear that the Night Sisters also want to leave Peridea, that perhaps there is some sort of ancient evil there that they do not even comprehend. Baylan is an exceptionally powerful individual, so powerful in fact, that despite Ahsoka Tano training to defeat him, and becoming more fortified with the teachings of her master in Anakin Skywalker, Baylan and Ahsoka still fought one another to a stalemate on the world. An extremely shocking moment, especially since Ahsoka reunited with her past and the teachings of her master, the greatest warrior that the galaxy had ever seen. But of course, this still leaves the greatest question of all that is still unanswered. What exactly is calling out to Baylan? What is this power that Baylan needs to find? We have very little to go on. However, we do have something. One very core important detail about the writings of the Night Sister Temple and a line of dialogue in the previous episode. Baylan says that he must go back to the very beginning to end the cycle. Why this is important is in the ancient Sith language on the Night Sister Temple, it speaks of the very beginning. Not literally of the very beginning of the Force, Peridea, or the known galaxy, but rather, it infers to a being who stems from the beginning of it all, a Zepho named Kujet. For those of you that need a reminder, the Zepho were a species of ancient Force sensitives, some of the first Force sensitives in the entire Star Wars timeline. They predate the Jedi and the Sith by millennia, or potentially even longer, with some theorizing that the Zepho reigned in the galaxy some 10,000 years before the Jedi Order was ever established. And since it's known by now that the Sith actually stemmed from the Jedi Order originally, that would mean that they predate them from thousands upon thousands of years. What's important to know about this ancient Force-sensitive race in the Zepho is that they had a homeworld that they named after themselves, where they would build massive tombs that held their teachings and various artifacts that were precious to them in life. The Zepho referred to the Force as the life wind, and followed staunchly the light side of the Force with great importance, using its profound influence to dictate their lives in the best way possible. That was until the dark side itself was introduced to the Order, and Kujet, who was referred to as potentially the first Dark Emperor of the entire galaxy, embraced the dark side of the Force, his discoveries and teachings of the dark side literally birthing into the Sith Empire itself. It was Kujet who would pioneer the use of the dark side, and in many respects, Kujet, as far as we know, could be the father of the Sith Order and the father of its teachings. It is unknown at this point in time whether or not we would classify Kujet as a Sith, but what is clear is that many of his teachings, using the dark side of the Force for one's power, to dominate and to control, stemmed from Kujet as far back as we can tell. In fact, these teachings by Kujet come thousands of years before the very inception of the Sith and canon. So, this could be the very beginning that Baylan speaks of. But yet, there is still more. Unlike all of the other Zepho who built their tombs on their home world of Zepho, Kujet, wielder of the dark side, built his own tomb somewhere else. And thanks to Jedi Fallen Order, we know that Kujet built his own tomb on the world of Dathomir, as he ruled over the Dathomirian people with an iron fist. Whether or not Baylan is after Kujet himself is unknown, however unlikely this is, as the body of the Dark Zepho was found on Dathomir by Cal Kestis. But the beginning could mean something else to Baylan. Perhaps he is seeking the very teachings of Kujet, the teachings of Kujet, or potentially his own spirit, calling out to Baylan. Kujet too, who was once a master of the light side and a wielder of the dark. Perhaps only Baylan's alignment in the Force is enough to pierce through it so that he can hear the whispers of the old Dark Master. One thing is clear though, these whispers, at least for now, manage to somewhat trick even Grand Admiral Thrawn. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on Kujet, Baylan, and Thrawn? And what do you hope to see from the finale of Ahsoka? As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting the channel today, and may the Force be with you.